All right, let's dive in. We are about to go on an absolutely incredible journey, a story that stretches back 4.5 billion years, from the very first spark of our world's existence all the way to the questions we're asking about the stars right now. This quote just perfectly captures the massive scale of what we're talking about. I mean, think about it. Long before any empires, before mountains were even formed, before the first real breath of air was taken, our planet was already writing its own history, burying entire worlds of memory in every single rock and gust of wind. And our story kicks off, like so many great stories do, in pure chaos. Act 1 is all about the violent, fiery, unbelievable birth of our world. I want you to try and picture it. Forget blue skies. Forget gentle oceans. The early Earth was a total inferno. The air, a toxic cocktail of methane and sulfur. And the ground? It was literally a glowing, cracked sea of lava, and it was constantly being hammered by meteor storms. It was, in every single sense of the word, a hellscape, completely and utterly inhospitable to life. But even in the middle of all that fire and chaos, something truly extraordinary was starting to happen. Deep down in those scorching, mineral-packed oceans, maybe near volcanic vents, the quiet chemistry of life was beginning. We're talking millions of years of simple molecules just bonding together, eventually forming amino acids, and then the very first chains that could actually copy themselves. You see, life didn't start with some big bang. It started with the quiet, incredible patience of nature. So, in our next act, we're going to see how this first, microscopic life had an impact that was anything but small. These tiny little organisms were about to completely re-engineer the entire planet. Let me introduce you to the planet's very first engineers, cyanobacteria. These little microscopic guys, you might know them as blue-green algae, they developed this radical new trick. They figured out how to harness the power of sunlight, split water molecules, and basically turn light itself into life. A total game changer. And the consequence of this? It altered the entire world. As a waste product, these bacteria started pumping out oxygen. Now, for all the early life that had evolved in that toxic methane-heavy world, oxygen was a lethal poison. It actually triggered Earth's first ever mass extinction, wiping out countless species. But, and this is a huge but, it also paved the way for all the oxygen-breathing life that would eventually include us. But this new atmosphere created a massive crisis. The oxygen reacted with methane, which was a really powerful greenhouse gas, and it basically ripped away the planet's natural blanket. And since the sun was a lot dimmer back then, the Earth plunged into the deepest ice age in its entire history. It became a snowball Earth, a frozen state that nearly ended the whole story of life before it even really got going. Okay, so life survived its greatest trial by both fire and ice. And it didn't just recover, it exploded. This next act is all about the absolutely breathtaking diversification of life on Earth. For reasons we're still not totally sure about, life suddenly got complex. In a period that was, geologically speaking, just a blink of an eye, we went from simple, soft-bodied little blobs to this dizzying array of animals with heads and eyes and legs and spines. It was truly the dawn of animal diversity. And the creatures from this era, they seem like they're straight out of a sci-fi movie. We're talking about Earth's first real top predator, Anomalocaris. We had the totally surreal opabinia with its 5 eyes, and, of course, the famous trilobites, crawling all over the seafloor. For the very first time, it wasn't just about existing anymore, it was about strategy. You had hunters and prey, armor and camouflage. The game had changed. But evolution, well, it's a story of booms and busts. About 252 million years ago, some massive volcanic eruptions in Siberia choked the atmosphere with toxic gases, basically turning the planet into a runaway greenhouse. The result was the Great Dying, an absolute catastrophe that wiped out over 90% of all marine life. It completely cleared the stage for whatever was coming next. And rising from those ashes, a new dynasty emerged. For over 160 million years, dinosaurs would rule a stable, green, and vibrant world. This was the Mesozoic era, the golden age of giants. But even the longest reigns have to come to an end. The fall of these giants would kick off our fourth act, and with it, the rise of a brand new kind of survival tool: intelligence. It came from space. A massive rock, about 10 kilometers wide, traveling at over 70,000 kilometers an hour, just slammed into what is now Mexico. The impact set off global firestorms and plunged the world into darkness for years. Just like that, the age of dinosaurs was over. And this created a massive opportunity for the small mammals that had been hiding in their shadows all that time. So what happened next was absolutely crucial for us. On the plains of Africa, as the forests started shrinking and turning into grasslands, one of our earliest ancestors had to adapt. Australopithecus stood up. That single motion, it freed the hands. And that one act changed the destiny of the entire planet forever. So what do you do when you have free hands? Well, you start making things. Homo habilis, the handy human, was the very first to intentionally shape stones into tools. This was the moment that raw instinct began to give way to reason. It's an understanding of cause and effect that drew the very first line between animal and what would become human. And then came an even bigger leap. Where every other creature on Earth ran from fire, Homo erectus learned to command it. Fire gave them warmth, it gave them protection from predators, and it gave them cooked food, which provided way more energy for a growing brain. But even more than that, it created community, a shared circle of light in the vast darkness. And that, of course, brings us to us, Homo sapiens. Our advantage was never our strength or our speed. It was a brain that was wired for imagination. We could remember the past, and we could plan for the future. We developed language to share complex ideas, and through stories and art and symbols, we created shared realities, things like cultures, myths, and even nations. And this brings us to our final act. Now that we've conquered the planet, we've turned our eyes upward, and we've started asking the most profound questions of all. Just think about it for a second. In what is truly a geological blink of an eye, we went from mastering fire to splitting the atom. We literally walked on another world and saw our own planet as this single, fragile blue marble hanging in space. We've now connected the entire globe with a network of information, creating a kind of collective consciousness for our species. It's stunning. And all of this incredible progress has led us to a really deep and, honestly, unsettling mystery. The universe is unimaginably vast, with trillions of planets. Statistically, the odds suggest that life should be common. So, where is everybody? This is the Fermi paradox, the great cosmic silence. So I'll leave you with a final thought to chew on. What if the silence isn't because the universe is empty? What if it's the silence of a graveyard, haunted by civilizations that reached a certain level of power, but just couldn't survive their own intelligence? And if that's the case, are we just the next brief flame in the cosmic night? Or will we be the first to find a way to endure?